There comes a time in every man's life when he must take a hard look in the mirror and ask himself one simple question: what is the condition of my mind? Not what I possess, not where I live, not how many degrees hang on the wall, but what is the quality of the thoughts I think daily? Because the world you live in, my friend, is a perfect mirror of the mind you cultivate. You cannot rise above the quality of your own thoughts. You cannot attract greatness while bathing in the waters of mediocrity and defeatism. Life is a battlefield not for the body but for the mind. Every inch of progress you'll ever make begins not with action, not with effort, but with attitude, and the only attitude that can carry a man through the storms of life and plant his feet on the mountain of success is a positive mental attitude. An attitude that is not seasonal, not circumstantial, but unbreakable. You must understand something crucial: your mental attitude is either your best friend or your worst enemy. It is the lens through which you see every opportunity, every setback, every human interaction, and every potential breakthrough. If the lens is cloudy with fear, doubt, resentment, or envy, then the richest life can pass you by, and you'll see only lack. But if your lens is polished with gratitude, purpose, and faith, then even hardship becomes a stepping stone. Even failure becomes fertilizer. The man with a positive mental attitude is a man that life cannot defeat. He might lose battles, but he never loses the war. He may fall, but he refuses to stay down. He's not the product of his environment, he is the product of his own inner governance. He chooses to see the best in every person. He chooses to expect great things even when evidence seems lacking, and because of this expectation, because of this attitude, he draws success to himself like iron to a magnet. And make no mistake, this attitude is not some magical optimism or delusional thinking. It is power, power that controls your energy, power that determines how much you persist, how boldly you speak, how deeply you believe in yourself when no one else does. To develop this attitude, one must become conscious of what he allows into the sacred soil of his mind. For the mind is a garden, thoughts are seeds. You plant negativity, you reap weeds. You plant fear, you harvest paralysis. But you plant belief, unshakable belief, and you will reap miracles. It begins by choosing your words. What you say to yourself in silence, in the still of the morning, when no one is listening, that is where attitudes are born. Speak to yourself as you would to a champion, for a man becomes what he repeatedly declares. If you wake each day and say, "This is the day where I advance. This is the hour I step closer to my vision. This is the season I conquer the habits that have held me down," then you have already placed yourself in alignment with destiny. A positive mental attitude requires discipline. It demands that you command your mind, not suggest, not hope, but command. That means when fear knocks, you don't open the door. That means when others complain, you do not join the chorus. That means when defeat whispers, you shout back with faith. You must guard your attitude as a king guards his throne, because there will be tests, oh yes, many. People will mock your optimism. Circumstances will try to bully your joy. Life will hand you pain and expect you to crumble. But if you have done the inner work, if you have built a fortress of positive belief within, you will not bend. In fact, adversity is the training ground for the unbreakable attitude. Every disappointment you face is a chance to reaffirm your belief. Every setback is a test to see if you will retreat into self, pity, or rise in faith. And here's the great secret: those who rise in faith not only survive, they thrive. The universe conspires for the man who refuses to be broken. This attitude must be carried into every aspect of your life, into your relationships, where you must believe the best about people, into your work, where you must expect greatness even when the results are not yet visible, into your health, where you see vitality, strength, and recovery even when the body feels weak, because what you hold in your mind over time begins to manifest in your world. You must become obsessed with the right thoughts. You must read books that uplift, listen to voices that stir greatness, Surround yourself with those who see possibilities. Stay away from the chronic doubters, the people who drain your joy. There are those who carry sunlight, and those who bring storm clouds. Choose wisely who you walk with, for their attitude will bleed into your own. And when the dark days come, as they always do, you must lean on the foundation you've built. You must remember every promise you ever made to yourself. You must recall every victory you've had, no matter how small, because nothing strengthens the attitude like remembering that you've overcome before and you will again. There is something miraculous about a person who refuses to be shaken. Employers want him, friends admire him, opportunities follow him. Not because he's the most talented, not because he has the most money, but because he has the one thing most men lack: a mind that refuses to surrender to the negative, a mind that will not betray him when life gets hard. And if you want this power, if you want to become that kind of person, then you must commit. Not wish, not try, but commit. Commit to training your thoughts like a warrior trains his body. Commit to waking each day with gratitude. Commit to believing that you are not placed on this earth to live small, suffer silently, or be buried under the weight of your worries. You were made to rise. The person who maintains a positive mental attitude does not walk alone. He walks with the unseen forces of the universe. Call it divine help, call it energy, call it providence, but when you commit your mind to good, good comes back to you. When you think in terms of abundance, abundance appears. When you trust in growth, growth finds you. When you see problems as opportunities, those problems become portals. Your destiny is tied to the quality of your attitude. The life you want, the success you seek, the peace you desire, it is not outside you. It is inside, and it begins with the way you choose to think. So I ask you right now, will you allow the world to shape your attitude? Or will you shape the world with your attitude? Decide. And once you decide, never go back. Not for a day, not for a moment, because an unbreakable attitude does not come from ease. It is forged in fire, and once you have it, once it is truly yours, you will become the kind of person that no storm, no loss, no critic, no defeat, and no fear can ever destroy. And that, my friend, is when life begins to bend in your favor. That is when you become unstoppable. You see, most people don't fail because of lack of intelligence, or skill, or resources. They fail because they allow their mind to be ruled by outside forces. One rude comment, one rejection, one financial dip, and they crumble. They hand over their power to the circumstances around them instead of holding to the power within. But you are called to be different. You are called to develop a mental atmosphere so charged with faith, so saturated with resilience, that negativity simply cannot survive in your presence. You've got to train your mind like a soldier going into battle. That means every morning you report for duty. You don't roll out of bed hoping the day treats you well. You rise declaring that you will treat the day well. You will show up with excellence. You will show up with enthusiasm. You will infect every room you walk into with your energy, not absorb the doubts and fears of the people in it. And when that inner critic tries to whisper in your ear, when it says, "Who do you think you are to believe you can do something great?" you answer back. Not with hesitation, not with apology, but with conviction. I am the one who refuses to let the chains of negativity dictate my future. I am the one who believes, even if no one else does. I am the one who will rise, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Do you know what separates the person who builds a legacy from the one who merely survives? It's not luck. It's not connections. It's mental posture. One holds their head high through the storm. The other curls into a corner. One sees challenge as a call to rise. The other sees it as an excuse to retreat. But the one with a positive mental attitude knows something the others don't, that behind every mountain of adversity is a mine of gold waiting to be discovered. You must cultivate a vision so powerful that it overpowers your present pain. The reason people quit is not because the road is too hard, it's because they lose sight of the reward. They forget why they started. They forget who they're becoming. But if your attitude is steeped in clarity and desire, you will keep pressing forward, no matter how steep the climb. Even the way you interpret time is shaped by attitude. The man with a poor attitude looks at delay and says, "It's taking too long." The man with a powerful attitude says, "Every minute is preparing me." The former complains, the latter prepares, and the latter always wins. And understand this: a positive mental attitude is not about smiling while ignoring the facts. No, it's about facing the facts with superior inner strength. It's looking at the deficit and saying, "This is not permanent." It's staring at rejection and saying, "They didn't see my value, but I do." It's seeing illness, debt, heartache, betrayal, and choosing not to be owned by it. Because what you tolerate in your mind becomes a tenant in your life. If you tolerate worry, it will rent space in your thoughts. If you tolerate bitterness, it will poison your relationships. But if you cultivate belief, if you nourish courage, if you feed your mind with determination, then everything around you will begin to rise to that standard. The attitude you hold becomes the thermostat for your life, and if you don't like the temperature, raise the standard, raise the way you speak, raise the way you react, raise the way you visualize your future. Stop entertaining smallness. Stop repeating the words of the defeated. Start programming your mind with the language of strength, the language of faith, the language of movement, and you can't do it once and expect results. You must do it daily. The mind is like a field, leave it unattended, and weeds will grow. But if you cultivate it with intention, it will yield a harvest so great, generations after you will reap from it. Every day you must choose what you focus on, because what you focus on grows. Focus on failure, and failure will expand. Focus on growth, and you'll find new paths. Focus on fear, and you'll shrink. Focus on faith, and you'll rise. You must learn to become emotionally immune to negativity, not cold, not heartless, but untouchable. That means someone can insult you, and it doesn't stick. It means circumstances can hit you, but they don't shake you. You've built your inner world so strong that you remain composed while others collapse. You've built a mind so focused that distractions fall off like water on glass. And when you operate like this, when your attitude becomes your armor, people notice. Opportunities notice, the right relationships start showing up. The doors that were once closed begin to creak open, not because the world changed, but because you did. You no longer walk like a victim. You walk like a force, and you will notice that life starts to mirror your strength. Things don't get easier, you get stronger. Obstacles don't disappear, you become bigger than them. Delays don't vanish, you outgrow them. Because the man who refuses to let go of his vision, who refuses to be negative no matter what, eventually arrives at the very place he once dreamed of. But none of this happens by accident. It happens by decision. Daily decision, hourly decision. It happens every time you replace a complaint with gratitude, every time you reject doubt and declare purpose, every time you wake up with intensity and sleep with integrity. This is how you build the kind of attitude that can carry you through decades of growth, setbacks, breakthroughs, and legacy. Building, you don't borrow it, you become it through repetition, through discipline, through a deep, fiery commitment to never again let the world dictate your mindset. Because the day you take control of your attitude is the day you take control of your life, and that's not theory, that's law. So now, the question no longer is whether life will test you at will. The question is, will you be ready? Will you stand when others fall? Will you speak faith when others echo fear? Will you move forward when the world says turn back? Because the man who builds an unbreakable positive mental attitude is not waiting for the world to change, he becomes the change. He doesn't beg for opportunity, he commands it with his belief. He doesn't crumble under pressure, he becomes pressure. Your future, your greatness, your peace, your prosperity, they are not outside of you. They are waiting inside, behind the door of your attitude, and the key is your daily decision to think higher, speak bolder, and believe deeper than you ever have before. So choose today to become the person whose spirit cannot be broken. Choose to build an attitude so strong that life has no choice but to yield to it. Choose to rise, to believe, and to never settle for less than the power that already lives within you. Because once you've mastered your mind, the world is yours.